Hi guys, welcome back to another video from my buddy, and this video is about the same video. In the last one we studied the digestive system in the last video, but in the digestive system we only studied a brief about digestive system, that what is digestive system and what is the function of the digestive system, what are the parts which are present in the digestive system, and what are the main 5 processes which are taking place in the digestive system. We also talked about the 2 types of digestion, mechanical and chemical digestion, right? So this is the continuation of that video, that is a part 2 of the first video, and in this video we will be studying about salivary glands. So what do you mean by salivary glands? You have been studying this term from time immemorial, I guess. Salivary glands are the glands which are present in your buccal cavity, in your mouth, right? They are present in the buccal cavity or in the mouth, and their main function is to secrete saliva. We've already studied what saliva is. Saliva is a watery like substance which is being released in our mouth, and it helps in the proper digestion. In the last video we have seen that I have talked about the chemical digestion which is only taking place because of saliva, right? Because saliva consists of salivary amylase, right? And this salivary amylase acts on the complex substances and converts it into simpler ones. Yeah, if you haven't seen the last video, please, I hope you guys check it out first and then you guys come on to this video, as this is a continuation of that video. So I think you guys need to read that first and then come to this one. It will be for your benefit, right? So now what happens is, salivary glands, they are of 3 major types, right? 3 major types, out of which the first one is sublingual salivary gland. Second is the parotid gland, and the third one is the submandibular gland, right? So these 3 glands are known as the salivary glands, and these 3 of them are named according to their place where they are present, right? So sublingual gland is present below the tongue, okay? So parotid gland is present at the back of ear, and the submandibular gland, as you must have heard, the lower jaw is known as a mandible and the upper jaw is known as a maxilla, right? So the salivary gland is named after submandibular, that means it is present somewhere near the lower jaw. Got it? So this is the major division of the salivary glands on the basis of their location, how they are present, where they are present, and they are mainly of the 3 types, right? So though out of the 3, the largest one is the parotid gland. This is the largest one, right? This is the parotid gland, which is the largest one. Now let's talk about how much saliva is being released by the salivary glands, right? As you know that salivary glands secrete saliva, and saliva in turn has what? Which helps in the digestion of food. It has salivary amylase. So salivary glands release saliva, and saliva in turn has salivary amylase. What is salivary amylase? It is an enzyme which is acting upon starch. Starch is a very complex type of a carbohydrate which I am talking about right now, right? So as I've already said, when the food is being converted from complex to simple, what I mean to say is, when starch, if we are referring to it as a complex substance, it is a very complex carbohydrate, right? So what will happen now? Starch is a complex, being a complex substance, is converted into maltose plus maltriose plus dextrin, right? So this is the conversion which is taking place, and now who is acting upon this? The salivary amylase. It is also called as the alpha amylase. This is the second name of salivary amylase, that is the alpha amylase. Now let's talk about how much amount of saliva is being released on a daily basis. About 1 to 1.5 liter per day is being released by our salivary glands inside our buccal cavity, right? So what will happen now? What is the pH? It is slightly acidic. So what will be the pH? If I am saying slightly acidic, that means the pH will be from 6 to 7, right? Now let's talk about the composition of saliva. As you must have heard, saliva is a very watery secretion, it is watery in nature, so that is true, but 98% of saliva is made up of water. is made up of water, and the rest 2% is made up of IgA antibodies, lysozymes, and magnesium ions, potassium ions, calcium ions, bicarbonate ions, sodium ions, etc. Right? And it is also made up of enzymes. Saliva is made up of enzymes. It also has enzymes. Now I've already told you about salivary amylase. There are two enzymes which are present. First is alpha amylase or salivary amylase, right? Or it is also known as ptylin. It is pronounced as ptyalin, right? And the next one is lingual lipase. Okay, so this is the major composition of the salivary gland secretion known as saliva, right? So this is the composition, and now I've already told you about the pH, but this only acts, this is the only substance, or this is the only enzyme which is being acted upon by the food. But what happens to lingual lipase? Why is it not acting on the food when it is present in the mouth? It is because lingual lipase is usually inactive. What happens is, in our mouth, obviously I've already told you the pH is 6 to 7, so it is slightly acidic. But what happens is, lingual lipase, the pH is 4 to 4.5. So if the pH is 4 to 4.5, what will happen? this will only be activated. It is present in the inactive form in our mouth, in our buccal cavity. But as soon as food moves to the stomach, what happens is, stomach is obviously more acidic as compared to our mouth. The whole body, our whole body, the main organ which is very highly acidic is the stomach, right? Because it contains secretions of HCl. So if HCl is being secreted and lingual lipase is effective in the pH of 4 to 4.5, so that means it is highly acidic as compared to alpha amylase, right? So when we are talking about highly acidic, it will be activated in the stomach. Are you all getting my point? As it is inactive in the mouth because of the pH, it is slightly acidic. But as lingual lipase is more acidic, it won't be functional in the mouth, it will be activated in the stomach. And if it is activated in the stomach, the process of digestion will be performed in the stomach itself. So it is inactivated in the mouth, but it is activated in the stomach, right? So this is all about salivary glands. Now let's talk about one more composition which I forgot to mention, that is mucus. Mucus also forms the 2% of the saliva. So what is the function of mucus? Mucus is actually forming the lining of the stomach. It is forming the lining of the stomach and mouth. What happens is, why is it forming the lining of the stomach and the mouth? Because what happens is, when we are chewing the food, if our food becomes very dry, we have to swallow it, right? But if we have to swallow it, it needs to be a little smooth in nature. The texture needs to be smooth. So how it will be made smooth? With the help of mucus. Saliva is always acting in the food, but still it needs to be made more smooth. And how is it done? When the mucus is present there. Now I already told you about mucus. Now let's talk about IgA antibodies and lysozyme that are present as the composition of saliva. Now what happens is, IgA antibodies is present inside the gut region of the human being. Why is it present? In order to prevent from any kind of diseases. And same goes for lysozymes. Actually, lysozyme is present in two things. First, it is present in our saliva, and second, it is present in our tears. Right? So what happens is, when we cry, the lysozymes are excreted out of the body in the form of tears. So what happens is, as soon as they fall off onto our cheek, right? So what happens is, if we have any kind of pimple on our cheek, the pimple will obviously settle down a bit because of the presence of lysozyme. Lysozyme are performing the function of killing the bacteria here. Killing the bacteria. Got it? So now what will happen is, saliva and tears. So in the saliva, lysozyme is present, IgA antibodies are present, and mucus we have already discussed. And what happens to saliva? Why is lingual lipase not activated in the mouth? Why is it activated in the stomach? This all is done, right? So what happens now is the regulation of saliva. How is the saliva secretion regulated, right? So how is the saliva secretion regulated? We will be studying this right now. So how is the regulation of saliva starts? So there are two responses, right? One is the unconditional reflex and one is the conditional reflex. So what happens in the unconditional reflex? As soon as we place the food in our mouth, the unconditional reflex starts. But what happens in conditional reflex? That is happening in case of unconditional reflex. And what happens in case of conditional reflex is the anticipation of food, right? What is the exact meaning of anticipation of food is whenever we see food, what happens is whenever we see food, it activates. This positive sign means that it is activating the salivary center in the medulla oblongata. It is in our brain. So what will happen in turn? It will activate the parasympathetic nervous system. There are two nervous systems: parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So first it will activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and after that it activates the vagus nerve, which in turn activates the receptors on the salivary glands and starts the signal transduction pathway. So what happens now? Production and saliva starts secreting. The saliva starts producing and the production happens. Now what happens? It activates the dehydrated body. Our dehydrated body is activated, which in turn decreases the saliva production. After the saliva production is decreased, it increases the dryness of the mouth, which eventually leads to thirst. Right guys, so in this video we have studied about the types of salivary glands, what is their functioning, what is the pH, what is the acidity, name the type of two enzymes, lingual lipase, salivary amylase, ptyalin, and I forgot to mention a point. Actually what happens is ptyalin is absent in case of carnivores. Ptyalin is totally absent in case of carnivores, but in human beings it is obviously present. So now we have studied about the regulation of salivary secretion also, and how is the saliva. Now what happens is after the food comes to the mouth, it is being mixed with saliva. When the food is being mixed with saliva, it is known as bolus. Bolus is the term you need to keep in mind, that bolus is the food when it has been mixed with saliva and then it is sent to the next part of the body, right? So in this video we will be studying this much. I hope you guys have understood everything I've told you in detail, and in the next video we'll be starting with esophagus and the stomach. So if you haven't still subscribed to my channel, just go ahead, subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and if you have any doubts you can comment down below. I'll be replying to them as soon as possible, and do share it among your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys.